Welcome to Homemade Movies Rewind. This is a very special episode, one of my favorites. I talk about it all the time. It's Hook. This is Rufio fighting Captain Hook. This is from 10 years ago today. A lot of new faces in this episode, including Rufio himself, Dante Bosco. He came back to reprise his role of Rufio, which is kind of very un-Homemade Movies-like. Usually it's just us and our friends, but Cinefix reached out to him because he was doing some YouTube-y type stuff and asked if he'd be interested, and he said yes. So here we are making the silly homemade costumes. Ben made everything. I did make the classic mohawk though, and then he shows up and we put this ridiculous stuff on him and we shoot this in front of the house that has been decorated like the side of a pirate ship. So worth watching behind the scenes again for that one because it's so much fun. Let's take a look. Yeah. Oh, okay, so this is a group. One of those challenges that we still had back then was like, oh, wow, we need a group of people. How are we going to get a group of people? It's like, just put it out on Facebook. Who wants to come to the house in 3 days or whatever and dress up as first a Lost Boy and then switch costumes dressed like a pirate. So that means Ben was prepping all that stuff. So if you look close, I mean, it's just a ton of, silly wigs and yarn and costume and there's a bike helmet with some, it's crazy. And then they all switched. That's what Ben was just busy doing full time for the first week, and then we would just shoot for a couple days in that second week. That's little Nick, who I later hired full time when I was over at Jelly Smack. He's an awesome producer-director. My really good friend Nick, he pops up every now and then, there. And a lot of other friends that showed up. Oh, I love that shot with the swords. There we go. There is Rufio. My other really good friend Stefan back there, who I joke that you can see his face sometimes just like watching in awe, seeing his childhood play out before his eyes, just like all of us. Really cool little miniature that Ben made there. That's the side of the house, of course.
Looky, I got hooky.
This is just such a wild... Okay, I mean, it went by so fast. Sorry to pause on this graphic image. I should put a warning because if you grew up in the 90s, you were probably obsessed with this movie. Such a great adventure movie, Steven Spielberg. And this was devastating. This was awful. Everyone loved Rufio. He was the coolest. I mean, he was the absolute coolest. And then for Captain Hook to murder him like this, we all, as silly as it sounds, and it's like we were half joking, but kind of half not joking, that we all felt this sense of like, oh my gosh, this sadness, because this is iconic looking, and when you're standing there in real life watching it and you see it happen, it's like this weird part of your memory that you're like, oh my gosh, I am literally witnessing this traumatizing thing from my childhood just right here in front of me. So it was a really interesting, fun day, and that's, obviously just like, this is our driveway and that's the street. I know I said this in other videos too, but people would just drive by, and because Rufio and especially Captain Hook in this costume and that's gold duct tape, by the way. I love that. I still use that trick to this day, just putting gold duct tape on stuff. You could tell it was Captain Hook. You could drive by and be like, hey, it's Captain Hook. Oh, hey, he's fighting Rufio. People would stop and look, and no one ever knew that they were actually looking at real Rufio, which is just one of those fun things because here's just like a random neighborhood in Pasadena that you would randomly see Captain Hook fighting Rufio. What are the odds? But yep, it was him. That's my good friend Will, who I used to do tons of videos with before Homemade Movies. He made a really good pan.
Do you know what I wish?
What? It's so sad.
I wish I had a dad. Like you.
Those spoons are pretty hilarious. Great shot.
Dad, I'm sorry.
Jake. His last name is McLean, but no relation.
Oh man, you totally killed Rufio. Well, thanks for watching our
Yeah,
Homemade Movies
there's
episode.
Dustin. Okay, so it was 90s week, sounds like. Yeah, they did all those themed weeks. But hey, fun episode. Fight scenes are a lot of fun. There's a lot of choreography, but since they're so short, yeah, it's like, okay, in this shot, all you have to remember is like clink, clink. That's it. It's like a 1.5 seconds. Okay, watch the next shot. Everyone watches it back. Okay, now all I got to do is this. So it seems like a lot of stuff, but it's like 1 second at a time, and then you edit it together, and it looks like really elaborate and amazing. So that's kind of, for me, the fun of filmmaking. Hey, one more thing I just thought of. I'm actually editing this episode, and I had this thought that I wanted to share. And not to just keep complaining about Cinefix and stuff, but I think it's important to kind of share this 10 years later with some of the difficulties that went into this particular season and why I ended up not doing the show anymore. So as you know, I was doing the animated show and this show, and they were really not sticking to the deadlines to give me notes on the animated show, and it was making it really, really difficult. And then I would try and focus on this show, the flagship show, Homemade Movies, but now we're behind scheduling another one, and it's affecting this one. And anyways, it was just like a huge, huge mess. Meanwhile, Ben and I are doing the best we can to make this show as awesome as we can. And as I've mentioned before, we were trying to kind of make it more simplistic as far as like the props and the sets, because that was kind of the fun of seeing it shot for shot. It actually made it better and funnier in a lot of ways to see it shot for shot when things were a little bit more crude. So in this episode, we built a very elaborate set on the side of the house with all the ropes and then made the fence, and that just seemed like the best fit for the side of a ship, right? We're gonna be sword fighting on the side of the ship, and so the side of the house seemed like a good fit, and we spent hours setting that up, and we thought it turned out pretty good. The focus is on the characters fighting mostly. Well, we finished this episode, we turned it in, we're trying to have lunch really quick, and I'm like so stressed out and worrying about everything, and I get a phone call from my contact at Cinefix, who will not be named. And she was saying, oh, we just had some thoughts on this episode that we feel like it wasn't really, the sets need to be a little bit better, and it wasn't really, kind of like complaining that the set wasn't good enough, like the ship didn't look enough like a ship. And I'm like, well, okay, I get it, but this is Homemade Movies, and we're trying to keep things, fairly simple, but we made it elaborate. Also, I don't know, that's just kind of the look of the show, and that's kind of what we're going for. I think that actually works better. And she goes, no, that's not what that's not what the channel wants. We need things to be more elaborate. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, dude, this is one of the best episodes we ever did. We have Rufio, we have Captain Hook, like, I don't know. It's just like, it was one of many final straws that it's like, you've got to be kidding me. They just didn't appreciate what we were doing and like how much effort was going into this and how difficult it was to make these episodes. And then you're going to complain to me that like the ship doesn't look like a ship? Give me a freaking break. Okay, anyways, that happened. It was stuff like that all the time. I don't like talking about that stuff, but this is a really good example of it. So anyways, let's continue on. What do we got coming up? Ooh, big scene from the Avengers fight scene. Now we're bringing a lot of superheroes together, reprising, of course, Iron Man, but the costume changes a bit. So in 2 weeks, we're going to check out this awesome fight scene from Avengers.